Yes, well, indeed, what's happened is that basically the conflict has completely spilt over into Lebanon here, with organizations like Hezbollah, okay, who is obviously the Shia group that controls large swathes of southern Lebanon, sending fighters in to prop up Bashar al-Assad's regime and to indeed crush opposition. In the north, it was the city of Tripoli, for example, who is a Sunni stronghold, was very strongly pro-opposition. It's important to note that that was an area that was occupied by Syria, by Hafez al-Assad, Bashar al-Assad's father, for tens of years, and that resentment there against Alawites and the Assad family is very strong. So indeed, they were sending fighters in as well. So of course, this created tensions within the country. With Mayssa, Awad, my colleague, we traveled to Tripoli and we went to see the witnesses of the height of these tensions, the moments where mosques were being blown up in Tripoli and where fights were taking place on the streets between the Alawite neighborhood and the neighboring Sunni areas. These people today say that things have calmed down, but you can feel the tension simmering just beneath the face of things, and of course amid a massive economic crisis. Al-Taqwa is one of the two mosques that were targeted in a double car bomb attack on the 23rd of August 2013 in Tripoli. 53 people died and dozens were injured in the Sunni stronghold of northern Lebanon. Azam had come to the mosque that day for Friday prayer.
I was sitting right here. We were thrown to the ground. Those sitting behind came crashing onto me. I saw horrible things outside. People trying to pull burnt bodies out of the rubble. There were dead people everywhere, some impossible to recognize. People were in shock.
Lebanese courts declared the Syrian Secret Service responsible for the attacks. At the time, Imam Rafai was openly criticizing the regime and urging worshippers to take an active part in the opposition.
We asked our state to at least designate as terrorists the regime that ordered, planned, and executed the attack. They refused, and they accuse us of being terrorists. How can we heal our wounds? It has been 10 years now. Those who planned and executed the attack are still on the run.
The investigation proved that the attacks had been coordinated by 2 Syrian officers and carried out by a 5-member cell operating out of Jabal Moussen, Tripoli's Alawite pro-Assad neighborhood. Back then, violent clashes had broken out between this quarter and nearby Sunni districts. Taleb and his friends took part in the fighting.
Here at Jabal Moussen, we have one president, President Bashar. We are proud of him. This wall was the front line. The fighting was crazy. Grenades would fall here, at our feet. In
2014, the Lebanese army enforced a ceasefire that holds to this day.
They fooled us. I lost my brother. He died a martyr. I lost a lot of friends on this street. They used us.
The violence has stopped. The main problem now is unemployment.
I'm an Alawite Muslim. She is a Sunni Muslim. I married her 25 years ago, and we live in perfect harmony. It's like paradise. Times are hard. The pound is in free fall, and there's no work.
This is the kitchen, and this is the bedroom. I sold the stove to buy medicine and food. I have sold our beds and the sofa. I have nothing left.
10 years ago, the Syrian conflict invited itself on these streets brutally. Today, the fighting has stopped, and both factions, the Sunnis and the Alawites, are obsessed by the same question: finding enough money to feed their children.
James, we saw proof of it just there in your report. Lebanon is facing a dire economic crisis. A crisis that, it should be said, has only been strained further as a result of what's been happening over the border in Syria.
Yes, absolutely. And what is happening right now in these is that there is trafficking of state-subsidized goods from Lebanon to Syria. As you know, Syria is under sanction. There is a very strong blockade. And what's happening is that there are trucks every day going from Lebanon, taking these state-subsidized goods. I mean, that's food, that's fuel, that's all sorts of things which are taken straight across the border. And that, of course, is adding to the economic situation here. That, of course, the 1.5 million Syrian refugees who are now living in the country as a result of this conflict and who are themselves in a dire economic situation. So a lot of people are on the streets here in Lebanon. We've seen roadblocks, people complaining about the situation, saying politicians are not doing enough to stop this trafficking and to stop this bleeding out of the Lebanese economy.
James.